Hey babes, welcome back to the Beauty Expanded podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just finished re-listening to this special interview that I did with Elizabeth from the District of Beauty. She's a PMU coach who specializes in messaging and helping you really refine the value of the services that you offer so that way you attract ideal clients and get booked. We went in a lot of directions when it came to how to increase your pricing, how to stand out in a crowd, how to book clients in your DMs. And I feel very, very fortunate having crossed paths with her. A little backstory, I came across Elizabeth because of the way that she was explaining things and doing things. I was like, she sounds so familiar. And that's when I realized that me and her had completed a messaging program. There's a messaging coach that I hired. His name's Brandon Lucero. He is a messaging wizard and really had me think of marketing and how I explain what I offer very differently. Elizabeth, being a permanent makeup artist, someone else who's in the same industry as I am, it just got me so excited because when you can find like a business bestie, someone who has also invested in the same programs, you begin to speak the same language. So I knew we were going to have a really great conversation. One of the things that I love about Elizabeth is she's very, very clear that however you market yourself should not come at the expense of sacrificing who you are. And that's really, really powerful. And I just know you're going to love her as much as I loved having this conversation. I also want to point out, when I first started out in my business, I had 0 clients. And I know that when it comes to business, I do a lot of things that seem counterintuitive. I really want to share this concept that not all debt is bad. And what I mean by that is when I first launched my paramedical tattoo business, I was committed to a lease. So I got my own studio space with 0 clients. And that's scary, right? Because most people would be like, well, don't quit your day job, work on the side, hustle, and grow your side business into your full-time business. And I just didn't ever do that. So I was in a lot of debt in the sense that I just paid for my certifications and then I'm getting the studio fixed up and I'm investing in an aesthetics chair and tattoo pen and inks and all the things. And then I'm committed to this monthly rent. And I think it was at the time $11.50 a month that I had to pay. I certainly didn't have the money to do advertising. I took the direction of I'm going to spend this money and invest in it, knowing that I'm going to make a return on it. But in the beginning, I don't see it. So even though I don't see the return on investment, I'm banking and investing that I will. And so I put things on credit cards and I even asked a friend for a loan. I still invested in ads, even though I didn't have any clients. I think what really helped me though was that I did have a background in web development. Made sure that I had a really great website, did my best with the messaging and marketing skills that I had at that point. I knew how to create a professional image online, branding, all of that stuff, because that was kind of my background. I used to do that for real estate agents. And I think that's why when I was doing ads, it really helped to bring in those clients as quickly as possible because this was so new. It was such a new concept. Nobody had ever heard of camouflage tattooing. We weren't even calling it paramedical tattooing at the time. And so people wanted to do their research. And I would write blogs to explain what the heck camouflage tattooing was. And that really helped me. And so the reason why I bring that up now is because you're going to listen to the episode. We talk about that. Like, should you do ads as a new artist and how messaging can really help you if you don't have the funds to do ads. Either way, life is choice, and there's no wrong choice that you can make. So it's cause and effect. And so Elizabeth's program really is a great opportunity for someone who really does want to refine their messaging and wants to become more visible and wants to really transform the identity and brand of your business without, again, having to sacrifice who you are at your core. Another option is going the advertising route. But you can't have good advertising without good messaging. They really do go hand in hand. Messaging is so important and it seeps into everything that we do in life, not just in business, because it's essentially effective communication. But don't knock ads off either. Going back, not all debt is bad. Even though I may not have had proof then that these clients were going to flow in easily or anything like that, didn't mean that I did not have the intention and the faith and the belief that they were going to come. And so for me, I'm just riskier in the sense that at the time, I'd rather rack up my credit cards, plural, knowing that this is all going to make sense and it will work out for me. And that is probably the scarier option for most people, but it is absolutely possible. So enjoy this episode and please send us a DM and let us know what was your biggest takeaway, because she asked some really incredible, powerful questions. Here's Elizabeth. Founded on the principle of expanding the conversation around beauty and business, I was tired of listening to basic, shallow advice and raw, hustle hard motivation that I started this podcast for those seeking to create something much more meaningful with their lives without having to sacrifice what felt right for them. A bit of a rebel, I don't do business like most people, and it served me well. So if you're a bit of a rule breaker yourself, seeking for a place to go deep without judgment and bridge a bit of the woo with the work, then you're in the right place. After 25 years of being a serial entrepreneur, I now know that the level of financial success you have is in direct proportion to the level of your own personal growth. So without further ado, welcome to the Beauty Expanded podcast. What I love about Elizabeth and why I wanted to bring her on the podcast specifically is because she's also a PMU marketing coach and an artist herself, which means that she's coaching other people how to build their business in an industry that she herself is still currently growing as well. And I think that that's what makes her really unique, because she understands everything that you're most likely going through when it comes to messaging and marketing. And so we're going to dig right into that. How long have you been a PMU artist? And then what actually helped you transition into coaching other PMU artists to grow their business?
Okay. It's coming up on 8 years for me. I'm an old timer in the industry, I guess. And to be honest, the first 6.5 were brutal. I really took the slow way. I just didn't understand the business side. I thought I could just be an artist and people would just magically line up for me. And that wasn't the case. I unfortunately had a lot of mental battles that I had to work through. I ended up getting an ADHD diagnosis last year, which was a huge gift for me. And I decided I didn't want to build my business like everyone else. I didn't subscribe to hard sales tactics and feeling pushy, and I couldn't find a way to do it. So I ended up in a lash business mentorship, and then a hairstylist mentorship, and then James Wedmore, who we know, who's a business development specialist, and then Brandon Lucero, who is a messaging expert. And with all of that, I created my own methods and found it wasn't that I sucked at sales. I just didn't do sales the normal way. And I had these people coming to me that never would have entertained permanent makeup. And so I started kind of taking a step back and looking at what I was doing. And I just really wanted to help other artists. There was a lot of beautiful, wonderful artists that think that they have to be a certain way or that you have to be salesy. And that's not the case. I feel there is a way for us to do it. You just need a flexible but simple approach. And that was my gift that I wanted to share with people.
It's one thing to be an artist, but it's another thing to actually learn how to grow a business doing your art. And that's the huge gap. Is I think a lot of people that are listening can relate to you in the sense of, oh, once I get certified and trained, all I need to do is just post here and there. And it's going to be so easy for me to find clients because everyone needs brows and everyone wants to feel beautiful. And then you realize, oh, this is actually a lot harder than I imagined. And the skills and the certification that you got in how to do brows, for example, didn't actually set you up on how to generate leads and how to market your business and how to sell and how to close. A lot of people at that moment either just begin to believe that everything they're doing is wrong or that it's not worth it or that it's not as easy and then they quit. And so for you, where was that moment in your life where you're like, this isn't working, but I'm going to continue to invest in this and figure it out?
A couple things happened. I had instructors that told me if your work is good enough, then the people will come. And so I spent so many years just practicing and thinking my work obviously must not be good enough because no one's coming. And so I would just invest in more trainings and try and get better. But then, you know what it could have been when I was in my lash mentorship, the Lashpreneur, even though I don't do lashes, they said basically you could have the best skill in the world, but if no one knows you exist, no one is coming. So it's me sending out invitations and not putting the address for where my party's going to be. No one is going to come. And I also had this misconception, too, of them, that sales automatically means pushy, manipulative, convincing, like a used car salesperson. And so I would avoid it because that really goes against my internal values. And if I don't agree with something, my integrity will not allow me to do it. So I will avoid it. And then I just also thought certain things you have to be this Instagram influencer. And I am just a regular person. I am a dumpster fire at some points, and I just wanted to be me. And I learned that these are skills you have to learn. You aren't just inherently blessed with them. You have to learn how to talk and communicate to clients in a way that they understand. And one thing that I didn't understand was that I was speaking to them through my lens of awareness. I know that brows are amazing and life-changing. They don't know that. And so because I'm immersed in this industry, I was almost trying to teach my clients into booking with me. And it's no, they don't really understand what I'm saying. And so I had to really simplify it and backtrack it. And then the other thing that happened was I actually signed up with she was a colleague and she was doing a beta program for business coaching. And so I'm, well, fuck, I need help. I have no idea what I'm doing. And so I signed up. And I will say there is a method for everyone. I will never discount someone's method unless it is something that is non-integrity based or just not of sound professionalism. But it just kind of taught me everything I didn't want to do. And so I'm like, well, wait, I don't want to do this. And I'm not going to build a business like this if I have to be that person. So I kind of did the one last ditch effort. And I'm just going to do this how I want to do it and see if it works. And if it works, great. And if not, then I'm kind of screwed because I don't have another education or anything to fall back on. So I had to make it work. But those struggles were the best gift because it really propelled me when I found coaching that, wow, this is something that I need to do and simplify it for people.
Yeah, I love that. I just did a podcast episode where I shared that the way that you see problems determines what's possible for you. So some people will look at a problem, things aren't working, quit, blame someone else. So I invested in the wrong program or I got completely screwed over. Or you can take it such as your experience that it actually taught you what you didn't want in your business. And even knowing what you don't want in your business helps to bridge that clarity on what to do next or differently. I'd love to circle back on messaging because you are the messaging queen and I geek out on a lot of your posts because it's so good and it really stands out in the crowd. So when you're thinking about social media and people are mindlessly scrolling, there's so much noise out there. And there's so much content out there and trends, like you said, that doesn't really matter to your clients and isn't making you as an artist stand out. So for the listeners who this is the first time that they're even hearing the word messaging, how would you define messaging and how is it any different from marketing or posting a caption?
It's so funny because I have a post coming this week about about this. So one thing to realize is Instagram, TikTok, your website, your consults, going into Facebook groups, that's not marketing. Those are marketing tools. That's to get your marketing message to your clients. Your marketing message is who you are, who you help, and how you help them. So blindly putting something up on Instagram without the context of who you are, how you help them, and what you do for them, it's a nice picture. And that doesn't make me want to part with my money and book you if I just see a nice picture. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what the purpose is. Do I really need this? So your messaging is your marketing, in my opinion. And that is getting your ideas out to those clients. Think of it like your tools, your Instagram, your TikTok, that kind of thing, your ads. That's your permanent makeup machine, your needle cartridge, your gloves. but your pigment is essentially your marketing message. If you don't have your pigment, it doesn't matter what tool you use. You are not creating brows, you're not creating areolas, you're not creating liner lips because you don't have the right tool. You only have half of the tool. So your messaging is that communication that starts to build the trust and the desire, because I'm sorry, but a beautiful picture of brows or
A beautiful logo.
no one cares about your logo. No one cares. We have to remember we're personal brands. And so you have to make it personal. It's a conversation with a client. And I think people make it way more complicated than it needs to be. And it's really not about being showy and clever and creative. It's really about just simplifying it and speaking to the emotions. And to me, that's what messaging is. Because in the end, especially people blaming the economy, right? Oh, the economy is the reason that I'm not booking. Well, we're not in a Great Depression. People still have money. They just have changed their mindset. They're not parting as easily. So when we're marketing and saying, get a beautiful pair of brows, they don't really need it. Honestly, and I'm a brow artist. I can say this without sounding an asshole, but they don't really need your brows. What they need is the feelings fixed from what those brows are causing. So for uneven brows, it is a visual representation that they feel something is wrong with their face. How many clients come to you and be like, oh, I'm so sorry, my face is just weird. That's what we're fixing. And if you can't communicate that, you will never create desire.
So let's dig into that even more. In order to create desire, you're saying you must be able to understand and speak to the emotions.
In my opinion, yes. You don't have to, but I think if you want to make it easier, then that's really what we're doing.
And I think there's also another layer of really understanding the problems that you're solving, because as an entrepreneur, before you're a PMU artist, you're actually an entrepreneur. Your tool is that you provide services in the PMU industry. The very makeup of an entrepreneur is that you're a problem solver. The reason why you're even starting a business is because you wanted to help people solve a specific problem. And one of the things that I think about when it comes to messaging too is not a lot of people know the problems that they're solving. With every training class that I do, when we do that marketing piece, the day that we talk about marketing and sales, I always ask, what problems do you solve? And without a doubt, 10 out of 10 times, the first thing that people tell me is confidence. And people really do believe that confidence is a problem that they help solve. And you see it all the time on Instagram. Let me help you restore your confidence. Let me give you a boost in confidence. Let me help you feel confident again. Now, Elizabeth, I know we're in the same coaching programs. We know this is a industry norm. So why don't you take the wheel and let me know, what do you think is confidence a problem, and what are your opinions on that?
So one thing I will circle back to, because I think actually it was James Wedmore, and I just adapted it to us. We are not in the beauty business. We're in the problem removal business. That's what we're in. In terms of confidence is not a problem, I would say. If your client is looking for confidence, they're looking for that confidence to solve something. So when we use confidence, and I had to work through this. So when I was asked my clients, what is confidence to you? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, okay, wait, let me ask this a different way. And I work with a lot of busy moms. Well, confidence to them actually was security and consistency and control. That's what confidence was.
That's powerful.
Never do I really have a client come in being like, I just want to be more confident. If you really listen to your clients, they're not saying, I want a gorgeous set of eyebrows. They're saying, I want these problems solved. And so confidence, that is a benefit, but still that is too broad of a benefit, because confidence to a 20-year-old means something dramatically different than the busy mom who's a 40-year-old, than the empty nester who's a 60-year-old. They all need confidence for different reasons. So if you are going to use confidence, you need to be able to back it up and say, my client needs confidence so that they can do this, or so that they can feel this. And so I would argue, and I would agree with you, that a lot of artists, the reason it's so hard to sell something is because they don't know what they're actually selling. We are not selling the brow transformation or the lip transformation. We are selling the brows to make the transformations of the internal transformation of their emotions that then goes to the external.
If you're having a hard time selling, I think it is also a direct reflection that you actually don't have a clear understanding of the problems that you're actually solving, your clients' problems. You're not very clear in that. And if you're not very clear with that, then it goes into the messaging that you're most likely not exuding. Because I feel like messaging is an extension of you. It's an extension of your voice. And so if you can't communicate that effectively, then there's no way that people are going to establish that trust and credibility and wanting to invest in you. And communication, I mean, take communication as a whole, even in your personal relationships. Let's not even talk about your clients, people that you don't necessarily know that are essentially strangers to you online. If you don't know how to communicate effectively in your interpersonal relationships, then how do you think that would affect the way in which you're communicating to complete strangers on the internet? It's much bigger than I think most people give credit for.
Well, and I think a lot of people think that messaging is Instagram specific, but you just hit the nail on the head. Our messaging and communication, I guess they could be interchangeable, is also responsible for your consultations. So in your consultation, if you have a lot of people who are saying, no, I just need to think about it, or it's too much money, that's because you haven't communicated the offer properly to them. It's not just your content. It actually bleeds into every area of your business. So what I noticed, because I started running beta programs with students, before we even got to the Instagram portion, they were already booking more clients just because they could meet their clients where their understanding was. And they could really show that I understand what you need, and I am the one that can help you with that. And that's what messaging does. Messaging kind of takes you from, I'm just looking for a brow artist, to like, I need you to be my brow artist and no one else to be my brow artist. Or I'm looking for an areola artist. Well, I need you to do it. I can't go to anyone else, and I will wait and I will pay what I need you to come to you. That is the value of messaging.
Elizabeth, how do you even do that?
Okay. So I would have an ideal client. I know everyone talks about ideal clients online, or maybe it's just the people I'm watching, but the purpose of the ideal client is knowing the emotional needs of that client. It's easier to get specific. One thing I really like to ask is, what do you do for people that a brow pencil cannot do?
Ooh, that's a good one.
So if I'm looking at my ideal client who is a busy working mom, who's a high level decision maker and has young kids, she needs to look polished and put together. So I offer the vehicle to help her look polished and put together at all times with her eyebrows. What can you do that a brow pencil cannot do? The other question I would ask is the confidence one. Why are they looking for more confidence? What do they think that will give them? And don't be afraid to ask your clients. Be like, hey, I have this really bizarre question. And then ask them that. Another one, and this is how to stand out in a crowd, is, what do you do that cannot be replicated through a training course? So what about you is special? That is different. For me, I was straight up and honest. And I had a lot of brow artists tell me, wow, that's how you talk to your clients? And I said, absolutely. And you know what? My clients loved it. So what can you do that is different? And then when you're in your consultations, I guess I could do two things. One is to repeat back to them. So I'm hearing you say, you're tired of dealing with your uneven brows. Of course, that's a pain in the ass. Who wants to deal with that all day? You don't have time for that. Even if you did have time, you don't want to do that. So repeating back to them what they're saying, but also if they're asking you questions, explain it to them in a way that they would understand. No industry jargon, no pixels, nothing like that, because they don't get it.
What you shared already was so valuable and helpful. I think one of the things that I do too is during my consultations, I'll actually type out. So I have an Excel spreadsheet, and every time I get off the phone or a meeting with someone, I'll write verbatim how they explained their issue in their own words, in their own context, without using industry jargon. And what I'll do is that actually gives me content and what I'm going to post if I do a future post about the way that someone views their stretch marks, for example. Literally, however they explain their problem, I will regurgitate in their own words, so that way I meet them where they're at. Because when someone is in my consultation and they say, out of everyone that I was looking for, I just knew you were the person for me. Or I just feel when I was looking on your Instagram feed or whatever, that you just understood my problem. And that is when you know your messaging is right on point, because you're literally meeting them where they're at, which is so important.
I will add, I do have my clients do a digital consultation form. So I can see what they wrote about their eyebrows too. And I can reflect that to them in their appointments. There's two other things. When you said, when your messaging is dialed in, your consults are easy. They pretty much come ready to buy. They just may need that little extra help, because we have to remember we are tattooing someone, and that is a huge trust. And so it's okay to need a consultation. But one thing, because you will get objections, no matter what, you'll get objections. So my favorite thing to do is just agree with them. Because when you just agree with them, oh, I'm so nervous. If I skate over that, like, you don't need to be nervous. It feels really like I have not been heard. But when someone says, I'm so nervous, I'd be like, hell yeah, you're nervous. Think of what you're going to let me trust you do. Here's how I'm going to help you through the process. This is a very much me and you together process. I want to hear your opinions. But yeah, it's normal to be nervous. I have yet to meet a client that is not. And then I like to shift the perspective that nerves are actually a good thing, because it means that you are making an educated decision on who you are going to.
Yeah, absolutely. I love my esthetician here that works in our studio. And she used to always post about self-care. Book your self-care day, invest in self-care. You deserve self-care. And one day across the room, exactly. And one day across the room, as I was hearing her kind of like figure out what she was going to say, I was like, nobody fucking cares about self-care. And she was just like, what? And everyone was dying in the studio. And I was like, people are not staying up late at night Googling, how can I solve self-care? How can I have more self-care? It's not what I call an itchy problem. It's not keeping them up at night. And I love the way that you said, what can you offer to your client that their brow pencil cannot? And so I love expanding that question, because when we think about the problems that we solve, it's what is actually keeping them up at night. And so when you think about it, is it confidence? It's not confidence. People are not Googling, how can I be more confident, or whatever the case may be. What are they actually Googling? So that's another great question to ask, is what could be keeping them up at night that they're trying to solve? And that will give you a better idea on what problems your clients specifically are facing. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say, so two other things, because some of my students really struggle with understanding it's just brows. What other problem am I solving? So two ways to look at it are, if you as a permanent makeup artist have gotten your brows done or aerial or something like that, why did you get it done? What did life look like for you? What made you want to get it done? And then how did life look for you after? Let's be real. A lot of us attract clients that are typically us. And so if you are your ideal client, then that is a great way to tap in. I talked to a student who was highly introverted, and she just didn't understand, kind of like, I don't know what else I do. And then I said, well, you've had your brows done. And why did you do that? How did it make you feel? And she just came to life, and she could understand it now from that perspective. The other thing to do when we are looking at problems and how to really get on the same level as our client is, my favorite ask is, how does this problem show up if you were to catch it on camera? So you can't really catch lack of confidence on camera, right? So even with uneven brows, well, they're probably spending time looking in the mirror, wondering what is wrong with their face. They may be adding makeup here, wiping it off there, and then repeating the cycle. And now you look like Angry Birds because it just got way out of hand. That's how we meet our clients with what they are dealing with.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because taking the time to answer those questions and brainstorm, I think, is so valuable. I loved how you broke that down. I have a couple questions that I want to ask you. When you started investing in your messaging and changing things around, I'd really like to hear the immediate results you started noticing in your business. And then even from the artists that you help, what are some of those first things that they start seeing immediately shift in their business?
What I noticed immediately is, I got more inquiries. I was booking more than I'd ever booked in my life. I'm not even kidding you. This time last year, I was still relying on model calls. My journey was so freaking sad. And I would say it's embarrassing, but it's not. It's just, it is what it is. And this year I'm in Toronto, which is one of the busiest cities with a lot of exceptional artists. And I still had people booking me. No model calls. No one's asking for deals. And even in the summer, when it is typically slow in Canada, because we get like 6 weeks of summer. So no one wants to be healing during then. But I would say some of the most powerful things that happened for me was I knew exactly what to write in my posts. I no longer spent time scrolling on Instagram. Instagram for me became fun because I didn't care if I was viral. I didn't care if I was cool. I looked at it like I'm an artist who thrives on connection with my clients. And if I can't have that, then I would not do this. I love getting to know my clients. And so I treated my posts connection pieces. So I really filled that connection cup with my posts. And I'm someone, I don't give a shit about Instagram influencers. I don't want to be one. I do not like the fakeness of it. And so I decided I don't want to be that. I'm not going to be. And I had another business coach tell me I had to be more formal and professional in order to book high-end clients. And I was like, yeah, but if they show up and I'm dropping S-bombs, then it doesn't really make sense. I don't want staunchy high-end clients. I want real people. It gave me the security because I started showing up as myself. I no longer worried about competition because I knew who I was, I knew what I offered, and I knew how I was different. And I knew that I could explain it into a way that clients would understand it. And the biggest thing that I realized too was that I was getting a lot of clients that never would have thought about permanent makeup. I think the defining moment was when one of my clients showed up, and she is a woman in her 60s, drives a pickup truck, does not care about makeup. And I'm like, really? And you want a combo brow? This is wild to me. But it was because I marketed it in a very different way. My brows are not the end result. And for a lot of artists, that's going to be kind of confusing because, wait, that's what we do. That's the end result, but it's not. That is the vehicle to get them to the end result of healing those internal battles that they have, of not feeling good enough or not pretty enough or not looking polished and put together. My backstory with ADHD, I know this is going to kind of sound like it's coming out of nowhere, but it will make sense, is that I spent most of my life masking, which is a term used for you're kind of being what everyone else needs you to be and rarely being yourself. And so when I got my diagnosis, it was the best day ever. I no longer felt broken. And I decided I didn't want to have to wear a mask to book clients. And I also don't think that we need to. I think the problem when we have templates and scripts, it does not allow you to be yourself. And who says you have to be a hey girl, hey person if that's not who you are? Because it's not who I am. My vision became that I wanted to heal people with a personalized set of brows because they weren't cookie cutters. You deserve something different and unique. But with my students, I wanted them to understand that there is a way to work with your personality. We just have to do it differently. And that's what sets you apart. And with my students, the biggest thing I think I mentioned was they thought it was just going to be Instagram. And then they were starting to book clients, just even going through a messaging portion. And I just wrapped up with my second student, and she just said, I didn't even know I needed you in my life. It just feels easy. It feels my efforts are paying off, and I get to work with people I want to work with. I don't have to take everyone if I don't want them. I'm not worried about other clients coming to me. I know what to post. It just simplified everything. But the most powerful thing was because she thought she had to be an influencer and she's me, a 38-year-old busy mom. She didn't have to be that way.
I literally got chills when you said that.
Yeah, I just made myself chills. And I'm not a crier, but I might have a tear. But for me, my mission obviously is to help other artists get clients. But in my opinion, I don't think we should sacrifice who we are or our values or try to be someone we're not just so we can get fully booked, because you will never be happy.
That was so beautifully stated. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. I know personally as well, because I'm my own personal brand, but social media can feel really heavy, and it can feel like an employer that you're an employee to that you never even knew that you signed up to start working for, with trying to keep up with the algorithms and how many times to post. And I love how you said when you start investing in your messaging and getting it right, you then begin to attract your ideal client because they feel seen, they feel heard, which then establishes the trust and credibility of, I got to meet Elizabeth. I got to book with her. She's the artist for me, which then makes your consults a lot easier. And then you're actually working with people that are you. But I also love the fact that you said you don't have to sacrifice who you are in order to have a business that supports the lifestyle that you uniquely want. And we didn't sign up to be influencers, most of us. And then second, I don't even think it guarantees sales. I want to bridge over to, what do you feel about social media marketing? You already shared how you feel about trends, the pressure of writing the perfect caption, but do you follow any trends? Do you follow any of the, well, you should actually be posting twice a week or whatever the case? I'm curious.
So for me, I feel you should post what you can be consistent with. For me, I post about 5 times a week. However, my captions are all pre-written, and I now have hired a VA so she can post them for me and take care of the organizing of the photos, because I am building essentially 2 businesses. I'm more hands-on in the mentorship page, which is the District of Beauty, because that's what I'm trying to focus on right now. I actually don't do any trends. In fact, I don't even do a lot of reels anymore. I used to do so many reels. Oh gosh, I had the love affair. Oh, this looks so cool. And you got so many views and no one is booking, because your clients actually want to see side by sides because they want to see reels. So,
Yeah.
and I think the danger too of following a bunch of artists, you think that becomes normal and what your clients want. And you forget what actually would meet them at their needs, because we're like, oh, this is everywhere. This is a great idea. But what you didn't realize is you don't know who that artist is marketing to. I don't know if you saw this when there's a trend going around that said, we don't want to do content, just book the appointment.
Yep.
And there's going to be a lot of artists that jump on that because it's funny. Well, it's funny to you as an artist who understands, but to your client, they're not saying, oh my gosh, she doesn't want to do content. Oh, I should just give her $500 then.
100%. Yes.
She doesn't want to do the work. Okay, no, I should probably just make it easier for her and book it in. If anything, that reel would hurt you, because your client is looking at you and being like, you have proven me no reason why I should book with you.
Yes.
And so to circle back on the consistency thing, I was consistent for years, did trends, did all of that, and no one booked. I would get, my new followers would be permanent makeup retouchers or social media experts. Mm-hmm. I'd be so excited I got a DM, and then I'd open it and be like, oh, it's like a retoucher asking if I wanted help with my feet, making it more beautiful. And when I started getting intentional, and that's when it changed. So I did talk with some students, and I said, look, consistency without intention, and intention is the why behind your posting, is pointless. But intention without consistency is also pointless. Because if you're posting once in a while when you get time for it, what that signifies to your clients is, well, she'll show up when she feels it. Even if they're not liking or commenting, they're watching. I've had so many people that have never liked any of my posts, but they have watched all my stories and they book in.
Yeah.
So I actually don't really look at vanity metrics on my brow page, especially because I don't care. Even my hashtags are all local based. I don't do dream brows. Your clients aren't looking for that. That could give me a client who's in California and I'm in Toronto. They're not coming here.
Interesting. I'd be curious, Elizabeth, because I, for one, am a rule breaker. So I would say I do not post consistently. I show up when I feel like showing up. So there is intention behind it, but I do definitely lack the consistency. And the reason for me, and this is something I'd love to just share a conversation with you about and get your opinion. So the reason why I don't post consistently on Instagram, so I would say I fall in bracket number 2 for you, whereas I have intention, but not the consistency, is because when I actually ask clients how they found me, they'll literally say, I was researching. I came across this. And then I was like, well, why can't they just camouflage tattoo? It makes sense. And so that's why I double down on Google Ads. So for me, I've always been open to doing social media ads and stuff like that, but I just double down on Google Ads for me because I'm literally finding that clients are researching. And when they're researching, they're usually often Googling something. And then that's how they come across me. And, oh, I didn't even know this was a thing. It just made sense. And then I found you. And so then when I hear, how did you hear about me? And they say, oh, Instagram or TikTok. It's usually Instagram though. They'll say, oh, I've been following you for a while. I've been following you for 2 years. And that to me is not a return on energy that I want. It's not a quick enough return on investment. So the way that I strategize or intentionalize my social media is all I want to do is affirm an experience. When you hop into my social media or my TikTok or whatever, I want to have you step into my world from an ideal client's perspective. Is how would this feel to work with her? How would this feel to have this done? How would this feel to be this client? And so I just create more of an experiential experience, if that even makes sense, for my social media. It helps to support my ads. Messaging is absolutely important. We literally just redid an ad that we have going on where we have a ton of clicks on our landing page, but they're actually not converting, which means they're clicking on my website because they see something that answers whatever they're putting in the Google search bar. So they are clicking, and it's our highest converting landing page in regards to clicks. But there's something that's dropping the ball because they're not actually submitting their information. So they're clicking, but not taking to the next step, which is submit their information or call us. So messaging is absolutely important because I was like, we have to do something in order to truly convert it. Because again, it's vanity metrics. I could care less that you're clicking on my landing page or my ad, but if you're not submitting your information or taking it to the next step, then to me, it's worthless. And that's how I feel about vanity metrics. But I was just curious, what's your opinion on that? Because I know I do things so weird and so differently. But for me, I just don't post consistently. There is messaging, there is intention. But I have found that my followers on Instagram, they just take forever to actually book. And to me, I don't want to spend a lot of time investing on that. Whereas someone who's literally Googling, how do I remove my stretch marks? How do I remove this scar? How do I get a nipple tattoo? They're ready to buy right now. And then it's just making sure that I'm in front of them and I'm building that trust and credibility right then and there to get them to book a consult.
I think there's a few things. And just because it's different doesn't mean it's weird. It's just different. And there's a few things I think we have to remember. One, you are a bigger artist. And so you have built that credibility and that following. But, you know, the new artist who has not, and you're just going to go slam a bunch of money in ads when you don't know who you help or how you help them, you're going to waste a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I think we have to differentiate that you're an artist who's been in the game for a long time. And so, yeah, ads are where of course, you want clients to come quicker. But if you're a newer artist, or for me, last year when I didn't even know how to sell something, to invest in ads doesn't make sense. And I did sign up with permanent makeup marketers who gave you the template, gave you the script, and all I got were the people with the worst previous work I've ever seen. People who said, you're too expensive. I had to chase. And so that wasn't for me. I am not against ads. I think if you have your messaging refined, you have a good website, because that's the other thing. If you don't have a website, people are Googling you. And if you think your Facebook is good enough, I'm sorry, it's not. Trying to sell your high-end luxury service without a website is kind of trying to sell a Louis Vuitton out of your trunk. It doesn't make sense. You need that to establish credibility. With Instagram, there's a couple things. I don't think Instagram is the be-all and end-all. I do think it is a wonderful free service to market your services. Sometimes they will take longer to convert. However, if you are getting new followers, my favorite thing to do is reach out and talk to them, and not reach out with a generic, hey, I'm here if you have questions. That leaves the ball in your client's court. I reach out and start a conversation. And the amount of people I have gotten bookings when they probably would have waited, that was very useful for me. And I think Instagram, the whole purpose for me for Instagram is trust and desire. It's a chapter book. Every post you do is a chapter in your book that is creating that trust and desire. So I think combining all the methods is really the end result that we need to do, because even the people Googling you are going to your Instagram.
Absolutely.
No one sees one post and they're, yeah, she's going to tattoo me. I saw one post, she's going to tattoo me. No, they need to see you on average 5 to 7 times. So that's even why Facebook remarketing ads are really good, because once they trick your website, then the ads keep showing up. So I'm not against ads. What I'm against is if you don't know how to sell in the first place, ads are not going to get you there.
That makes sense. Let's talk about red flags. I really love that post that you did about the red flags as an artist, right? As an artist, we see so many posts about red flag clients, but we actually don't take the time to maybe consider what are some red flags that I'm putting out there as an artist and a business owner. I'd love for you to share more about that.
Well, I love that one was fun, because a lot of it we don't realize, right? We don't realize. So the website is a huge one. And also your website shouldn't look like a yard sale. It's got to be directed through your client's lens. One that a lot of artists miss is not showing up, not showing their face, not showing the personal side. And I don't mean you have to overshare vulnerable stuff. I'm someone who doesn't care. I will share it as long as it leads back to a message for my client's journey. Today's post was about my, because I lost my mom 7 years ago, but it related back to my mission in business. It has to be relatable. But I had an artist reach out to me. She's like, do you want free lips? I'm not a lip artist. So I'm okay. Well, I'm going to look at her page. So I looked at her page and she has beautiful work. However, they are all close-ups. So for me, that's a red flag as an artist. Why are they all close-ups and why can't I see a full face? Because close-up is really easy to steal people's work, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see no healed work. And honestly, I'm a big proponent of healed work. You have to see it. But also, I do not know who she is. She didn't have a website. There's no picture of her. And immediately, it's a no for me. There's no reviews. It's a no for me because I don't trust you. Reviews are another big thing that people don't realize the power of a review. And it's not just your reviews on Google. It is also your client conversations and your Instagram messengers, because the Instagram messenger ones are unscripted. It's almost a resume, right? Your Google is your resume, but real talk is in the DMs.
Yeah.
So those are super valuable to share. If you don't have reviews to back you up, I review a $10 item from Amazon. I will go and read reviews. You think someone's not going to read reviews on a $500 service that is tattooing your face? Think again.
So true.
And I know it is so scary to ask for reviews. I had the hardest time asking for reviews because I thought, oh my God, they're going to tell me they don't love it. Or I just was so scared. It was so hard for me. And then I found a workaround, of course, and I would text them immediately after their appointment. I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot to ask. Would you mind? I appreciate you're super busy, so any little bit helps. And that's how I started building my reviews. But it's so funny because we'll go and tattoo someone, which is huge, but yet asking for a review, terrifying. Those are all big items that we don't. A lot of clients, because I was one of them, yeah, I'll ask for reviews when, I'll get to it when. And I just would never get to it because I would avoid it. Your reviews are super important. And if you're not getting those conversations, I woke up and I feel beautiful with my eyebrows. If you're not getting those in the DMs, reach out and ask them, hey, how was it waking up with eyebrows today? And then screenshot it with their permission, of course. And then block out their face. They would never show their identity. And that really shows the power of what you do, as opposed to just putting up this paragraph of a review that has essentially been scripted.
Those are actually been my favorite ways of showing our reviews, our client testimonials, is literally screenshotting the DM or the text message. And you're so right. When I'm on Amazon, anytime I'm about to buy something, because there's a sea of everything. So if I'm looking to buy Skims dupe, if you guys want to know specifically what I'm doing on Amazon,
and I know Skims dupes.
Right. I am literally reading all the reviews, and you're so right. Especially if you're about to invest in a service that's 500, whatever. Of course, people are going to be looking at reviews, and I never even put two and two together, but that's so right. And then the other thing is that I think some red flags for me is, even if I'm about to buy something like TikTok always tends to get me on their little things that they're trying to sell me. And if I'm about to buy something, I'll click on that vendor's website. And if they don't have any contact information, I'm not submitting my credit card info. And or if the only contact information is submit a form to customer service or support, but there's no address, there's no phone number, I'm not investing money into it, because I'm like, what am I going to do? If I'm not happy, or if I have to do a return, or if it doesn't work, I'm going to just submit this claim ticket and hope that some support out there is going to get back to me. And so many artists are doing the same thing. If I'm on your Instagram page and I can't find your name, and then I have to go to your website to then look at your bio, and hopefully you have a bio. 1, 2, you have a photo of yourself. 3, you have your name and your contact information. Don't make it that hard for me to try and contact you for more information. But people are really busy. They want easy information. But I also think, to the image of it, it's the transparency. And that's really where that trust begins. And so if you are transparent, because that's how it's going to be perceived to that potential client, is what are they hiding? So if you're not showing photos of yourself, if you're not showing a contact number, an address. Those things are so easy that if for some reason you're not doing the easy stuff, then I think those are the red flags that you're putting up that you have no idea that are actual red flags to potential clients. Is there anything that you want to add as potential red flag?
One of my favorite terms is thinking your work speaks for itself. And I know this may rub some people the wrong way, but I'll try and provide context. As artists, sometimes our ego gets in the way, right? We know how fucking hard we had to work to produce good work, how much effort we have put into this, the blood, the sweat, and the tears. We know how much. And in all honesty, your client doesn't care. And they don't need to care. They're booking you for a service, and you should have put all of that effort into it. And so I think sometimes we just put up a post, we just may not know what to post, but sometimes we just think, well, this is a beautiful brow. That should make anyone want to book. And it doesn't. And we need to give them value on why they need to book, how this will help them. Your clients don't care about you until you show them how you care about them. And I think when we humble ourselves, and I don't want someone to think, well, you should be giving it away or you shouldn't be proud of the work you've done. Yes, be fucking proud of the work you've done. But being proud and showing a before and after isn't going to book clients. We have to be realistic as well. And so sometimes we do need to take the ego out of it. Even if someone questions you on price, there's a lot of people that will then go do a post justifying the price. What you see is this, but what you don't see is all my certifications, hours of training, that kind of stuff. I understand the premise behind it, but what are you expecting your client to get from this? They're not going to say, hey, oh, that totally makes sense. I want to pay you more now. They don't.
Right.
If anything, well, shouldn't you be doing that? Shouldn't you be wanting to put your all into what you're doing? So your work is never going to speak for itself. You have to speak for it.
Speaking of red flags too, some of these trends are so tacky and bad. And when you talk about price, because there's a lot of people that want to attract type of clients that can afford the higher prices that they want to set for their services. And so I always think, what kind of image are you portraying back to your ideal client? I remember I was talking to this PMU artist and she's like, I really want to start getting in with doctors and surgeons and medical clinics. And then I just had to be really blunt with her. I was like, if you were to look on your Instagram right now, so step into your surgeon's shoes, a surgeon or a doctor looking at your profile, who is then going to refer their clients that they've built relationships and trust with. How do you think your Instagram is going to be portrayed? Do you think that surgeon and doctor is going to feel confident referring you as a professional paramedical tattoo artist? Are your reels, are your posts, are your captions portraying that image that's going to be a direct reflection to this medical practice? And I think people forget that. I remember seeing this trend of how I made, I'm probably going to butcher it, how I made $1,000 in my client session. And it's the client leaving to go use the restroom or whatever. And then they go into their purse and steal the money. I don't know if you've seen that trend.
It's
supposed to be funny. Yeah, where they take the money. So they're stealing. So they're essentially stealing money out of their client's purse in order to make an extra $1,000 tip or whatever. And I know that it's supposed to be funny and light humor, but it's actually not. And I think it's so freaking tacky when you talk shit about your clients, which actually, if you were to take 100% ownership and accountability in your business, it's actually not your client's fault if they're not paying the prices that you want to set for yourself. This is your business. It's not your client's business. It's your business. And so to talk shit about clients because you lack boundaries, because you lack messaging, because you lack whatever the case may be, is so tacky. And then I think it from a client perspective. If I was potentially looking to book with this particular artist, it makes me turned off as a potential client to want to book with them. Because what if I made a simple mistake? Are they going to talk shit about me and do an entire reel about me? How confident do I feel? Now I feel insecure and self-conscious to book. And I feel people are just taking their passive aggression out on clients on reels and marketing.
I'll say one reel type that I actually hate, but one thing just to circle back to, if your client wants a discount or doesn't want to pay you what you're worth, the problem is actually you didn't give them enough value. That's actually on you. You didn't meet their needs. You didn't create the big enough desire. That's on you. That's not on your client. No one wants your $500 brow pencil. So if you're just fixing brows, that's what they think they're buying. So we have to make more meaning behind it. But one of the reels that I hate is when they prank clients, when they the client reveal. And I've talked to my clients about this. If I was a client going to book someone, I would not book you because to me, you do not take my transformation seriously. Think of how vulnerable that client is in that moment. And honestly, as an artist, the hardest part of the appointment for me is when I show them the reveal. And it's not because I doubt my work, it's because I want them to love it. And I think sometimes with Instagram, if you don't have a plan, we have to remember people go to school to learn social media marketing stuff, and we think we're just going to copy someone else's idea and throw it up and think it's going to be impactful and people are going to book. It doesn't make sense. But I think we confuse followers for clients, and they are two different things.
Yes.
So you
absolutely.
don't need 1,000 followers if those 1,000 followers are never going to book from you because they are not the right person. They're not in the right city. They just followed you on a trendy reel. Whereas if you had a reel, my reels now, sometimes you have 300 to 500 on my brow page, and I book more than when I was having 2,000.
I love it. While also doing way less work. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, way less work. Oh my gosh.
Way less pressure, way less work. Any advice that you would give to someone who is struggling to charge higher or increase their prices?
Yes, because I was this person. The emotional discount at checkout, the apology for having to charge them, my brain has a very hard time with, well, just charge your worth. Just charge more. You should just charge your worth. I get what you're saying, but my brain does not feel that I'm good enough to charge that. I can't will my way into it. Willpower is a really tricky thing. You're not always going to have willpower. So it's easier if you flip the perspectives. And so what I started looking at was the life transformation I was giving them. So my brows were a part of my offer, but I was giving them consistency. I was giving them control. I was giving them a collaborative effort. That's something that my studio is really built on, where it was a space for this woman to feel heard. So tell me, as a woman, what would you pay to feel heard? And so for me, that's priceless. Understanding their needs, a 3-hour uninterrupted appointment where they never get to do that. I knew this brow change was the catalyst to put them first in their life for once, and then that would bleed over into other areas. So I stopped looking at as just my work, because as artists, we are perfectionists. I would argue a lot of us are, and it's easy to pick out your shortcomings. You will never be the best and perfect artist because you will always move the goalpost. And so how will you ever understand how to charge your worth when you're basing it just on work?
Absolutely. Especially for the new artists who don't have that experience accumulated yet, and they get so stuck on this.
So this was my student. She's only been in this industry for a year. We had our final call and she was struggling. I'm like, you're going to have to up your prices at some point. She's like, well, I'm new. I don't feel I can do that. And I took her through what I just said to you. And I'm like, so how much should you be charging? She's like, I'm not charging enough.
Yeah.
And so you can say charge your worth all you want, but if your worth, your self-worth is -2, how are you ever going to do it? You have to look at the other side of it.
And if your self-worth is tied to the identity of experience or a lack of experience, you're going to have a hard time charging your quote unquote worth. The number one priority that I want to give our clients is I want them to feel safe. They're coming to us with their biggest insecurities, and it is affecting their life. It's affecting their sex life. It's affecting how they feel as a woman. It's affecting how they are in the workplace, what they're portraying as confidence and value to their kids, and how they take care of themselves and what they invest in for themselves. And so I really wanted to create a space that was really safe, non-judgmental, where someone could feel heard, listened, respected, and be supported. And however that support looks for them. And that's something that I share with our students is when you go into a client session, you have to take your own insecurities out the door. It's about serving them. And if serving them means you stay quiet because they just want to zone out and kind of go into a meditative space, then you have to be able to read that and be able to support them in the best way that they need support, not you as an artist. So if you hate silence and you're really self-conscious and you like to be a chatterbox through your whole entire session, they're going to feel unheard, unseen, and not taken care of. And so you have to read the room. You have to be able to understand your clients and be able to service them in the way that they need to be serviced. And so all those things are the invisible elements that make up for the price that I set our services for. And I think that just kind of, again, just goes into, I don't base it on like what I believe I'm worth. I mean, I know I'm a pretty good artist, so I got confidence there, but it's more so of all those invisible elements that we provide in our services. So that way our clients can step into a space of self-acceptance, self-love, and all those things that are truly, truly important to help them move forward in their life. Anything you want to add to that? Because I know that you said that you wanted to circle back on something.
The only thing I will add is something that, based on experience and talking to students, is sometimes too with price, we price with our wallets in mind. And so
Yes.
I had a student just like, well, I know the economy is bad and all this stuff. And then they, well, honestly, you are not making their client sign on the dotted line. They are an adult and they get to make their own decisions. And so you can't put your wallet in there. You can't price with your wallet.
A lot of people, when it comes to pricing services, a lot of people superimpose their limiting money beliefs and stories onto their clients. And I see it all the time. And again, it goes back to being 100% accountable. Your business is a reflection of your own personal growth. And so if you have those limiting beliefs about money, it will absolutely ripple and influence the way that you talk about money, the way that you receive payment, the way that you price things out. And so if you have an unhealthy relationship with money, which most of us do, including me, I had to really work on that.
Working through that now.
I'm telling you, it's absolutely worth it. But that is without a doubt 100% affecting the way in which you price your services.
We think getting clients is the hardest part of business or learning the new skill, but the hardest part of business is your mindset. There's a lot of stuff. If you don't heal that and work on your mindset as well, this is the only reason my business changed. I could have learned all the skills I wanted, but if I couldn't work on that mindset, especially charging my worth, if I couldn't find a different way to look at it, then it never would have gotten better. And so I do think we spend our time looking for these quick fixes, these external things, and not to get too deep, but it's actually internally, we have to look at it differently too. If all you ever focus on is how hard it is to get clients, it will only ever be hard to get clients. But if you can start remembering of, hey, remember when someone just booked you from a referral and you didn't even have to do a consultation, or hey, remember when you opened your email and there was a booking right there? That was easy. So it can be easy. It's just we spend our time focusing on, oh, I don't have this, I don't have this, and I don't have this. And I was an A+ in that part of life, in that I constantly looked at things with lack. And it wasn't until I started changing that mindset that that's when it got different. And also with fear, because we're afraid to put ourselves out there, if you start thinking about more the people you are going to help as opposed to us personally, I also find that becomes easier too. Some of the best artists with the best personalities remain unseen because they haven't put themselves out there.
I've been an entrepreneur for a really, really long time. And I will say 200%, it really is mindset. It's so interesting. Even in my coaching calls with my mentorship, I always include something that has to do with mindset. And I can see that some of the people that log in, I love you mentees, but I see it. I see the deer in the headlight look. You're not really interested. You're checking out. Jay, just give me the steps. Give me the things to do. And it's, I already gave you them, but we actually have to figure out why you're not doing it. I already gave you all the steps. I already gave you everything that I'm doing in my business. I'm already living the business that you want to have. And if you think it's more steps and more to-do lists of things that I think you need to do, it's not. You got to figure out, well, why am I not doing this? Because that answer there, and only you can answer it, is actually what's limiting the growth of your business.
One of the best quotes I read was, the work you're avoiding is the work that is needed and will cause the most success in your business. I had a student who high introvert, and I gave her the exact steps on what to post. We worked through it. She still wasn't posting. And it was all to do with the fear of people judging her. And I said, everyone gets judged. We judge everyone all the time. You might as well make money doing it. But if you're afraid of being judged, you will never be successful, because there's no way out of that. And honestly, most of the people judging you, you're never going to hear from. And even if you do, you have triggered an insecurity in them. It's not even about you. They don't pay your bills, so stop letting them affect your paycheck.
Absolutely.
When you take the step, finally, it gets easier.
And if you're listening to this and you are so deathly afraid of people judging you, what do people's judgments have anything to do with your capability to help someone? And if you prioritize that and you make it mean something, then I think it's actually two things. One, self-importance. The judgment of what people think of you is obviously more important than your capabilities of helping others because you're so self-absorbed about what people think of you. And then two, consider the fact, or maybe change your perspective, is if I continue to make this important, how is that actually benefiting me? And that's one of the things that our mentor James always talks about is there's always this underlying secondary benefit that we're not even really conscious of until we become conscious of it. For example, if I just continue investing in more trainings and certifications, how is that actually benefiting me? Well, it allows you to not actually put yourself out there. It allows you to not actually start applying because you're always in learning mode. The truth is that there's always going to be more to learn. Even after, I'm assuming, Elizabeth, you've been doing this for 8+ years, there's still more for you to learn. And so when we place so much importance on people's judgment or our fear of judgment, it's how is that actually benefiting you? I can bet that part of that is because it allows you to stay safe and allows you to be unseen and allows you perfectionism, right? I've never heard a perfectionist, a self-proclaimed, because you perfectionists love to proclaim that you're perfectionists. You double down on that identity. I have yet to hear a perfectionist ever say, oh, it's finally perfect.
Never. So if you'll always move the goalpost.
Exactly. How is that serving you? Because there has to be a benefit. That's the reason why you keep doing it. That's the reason why you keep waiting. And is it really a benefit? The answer is most likely no. It's just there to keep you safe.
You stay uncomfortably comfortable. Don't mistake being familiar with being comfortable. Yeah. Even on my brow mentorship page, honestly, it's hard sometimes. I have to put things out that don't do well because I'm refining the process. And the old me would have looked at it as, well, that's a failure. That's a failure. Well, it's not that it's failure. I have to kind of think there's no such thing as failure. There's just things that worked or they didn't work. Life is just this big science experiment, and some things are not going to do well and some things are. But I was queen of learning mode and staying safe and buy course after course after course and not actually put myself out there because, well, no, I had to learn this or I had to do this. If you're someone with ADHD, you get stuck in analysis paralysis very easily, where you have all of these ideas and all of these things, and then it's, well, I'm stuck now. I can't even start. And so it's really making it simple and just doing the next right move, not 10 moves down the line, but what is your next right move? Speaking of next moves, we've been talking for over an hour. I'd love to wrap this up. Share with the listeners, if someone is listening to this right now and they're like, yes, this is something I obviously struggle with. I want to learn this. I want to do business my way without having to sacrifice the algorithm of Instagram or the pressures of being an IG influencer. What offers do you have? Tell them how they can work with you. Currently, I do one-on-one, and it's 6 calls, and we work through short video trainings with actionable steps. But one thing I'm really upfront about is this is straight to the action. There's no fluff. There's no BS. It is basically, we're almost building Lego. And so every piece is built on itself. So I'm not asking someone to go, okay, we have to go work over here. We have to go work over here. No, messaging will bleed into, now we're going to take it to Instagram. Now we're going to take it to your website. So we make it easy. And I'm a very big proponent of it has to be you. I want to know what is different about you. The next step, which I plan to launch in fall, would be a group coaching session. And that will be the same idea where I'll have probably 10 students, and then we will go through exactly what you need to do. And also I will critique and help you through. So it won't be one-on-one, but there will still be a lot of coaching and feedback. And then eventually it will either go into a course or a membership. I'm just deciding on that right now. A couple questions. Your one-on-ones right now, 6 calls. Is that 1 call a month? I would say 6 calls over 12 weeks. They get the training videos, they do the homework, we meet up, we talk, like extract things from them and help them refine it. So that's my method.
Awesome. What is the price point for that?
Right now it's $750, all encompassing, because it's been my beta.
That's awesome. I think that's a steal. So for any listeners, you better jump with Elizabeth right now. There are some coaches where I feel so grateful and blessed that I caught them before they got super big. And so I just think that's a steal. That's amazing.
I think it's a steal too. It's 1 to 2 clients. One of my students, she didn't feel she had the money. She found the money and we more than quadrupled her investment. She was getting 1 client a month and she was only in the industry. She just hit her year mark. And then in summer, she's almost fully booked until September now. And she's had people driving to her and she gets to show up as herself. And so I think people forget about the return on investment is that it's not just this for that. It is you get to show up as you get a simple process, plug and play, make your life easy. It's so funny because when I first initially was looking for students, I had a lot of fears because this was something that was just totally different in our industry. It really kind of flipped the script on a lot of things, especially when all we've kind of known is permanent makeup marketers, the Facebook marketers. And this really, in my opinion, was quite different. Now, do a lot of programs out there have ideal clients and about you and that kind of stuff? Yes. However, it's really hard to teach someone how to show up as themselves with their voice. And I feel that is where my value comes in, and just to simplify it and make it plug and play so it doesn't feel overwhelming and that you don't have to do these trends. I want to change the industry to make it a more humanized, non-bullshit approach. And so that is my dream for people.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to include in the show notes how people can follow you, your Instagram. I'll include both accounts so that way you can see her promoting her PMU services as an artist herself, and then also more about her coaching program. And then last question, as we wrap this up, Elizabeth, is what is the number one thing that you feel listeners need to know right now?
That it's okay to be you. That's the only way you're going to stand out in a crowd. If you weren't meant to be who you are, then you wouldn't have been made different. And I think that true empowerment and true confidence and security comes from is when you can show up as yourself, that energy will read through, and that's when things start changing. And so I think that would be it, is that you don't have to be something that you don't align with in order to be successful.
Oh, I love that. That's super powerful. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I enjoyed this conversation, and I'm so lucky because I get to talk to you off script right now. But we'll be sharing everything. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend. Even a simple repost on your stories or leaving us a review helps others as well on this entrepreneurial journey. And if you're someone looking into starting an exciting career in paramedical tattooing, your best bet is to check out our YouTube channel, where we share industry insights on what it's really like to tattoo and help people transform their lives for a living. For beauty entrepreneurs, whether you're new or experienced, I also offer one-on-one coaching calls where we dive deep into your business to help you grow and scale it on your terms. I truly believe every problem has a solution, and the very definition of being an entrepreneur is being a problem solver. But sometimes it takes another person's perspective to help you move past a block, especially when you're in the thick of it. I want to see you win, and if you'd like some one-on-one support from me, you can find details on our site to book a call. You don't need to do this alone. Okay, Vibes, thanks so much for your time and have an incredible